Tell me saying Dave Morgan.
Okay, we should be live now.
I can check. Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything sounds good at my end. What about you, Zach?
Yeah, everything looks good on my end too.
Sounds a lot clearer now too.
So yeah, I think we should be good, Nico. We should be good.
All right, cool. So we'll start with a quick introduction, and then we'll do the introduction statements. I'll let you guys know when we do that. Yeah. So, hello everybody from Maricopa. I'm your host Nicholas Andrescu,
I'm in color, Zach.
and you're listening to the Controversy, the podcast you can relate to. We're back here for a brand new episode of The Controversy. We're finally back after ending off 2 years ago. For those that don't know, Zach and I ran this podcast for 2 years back when we were in high school. And now we're here trying to bring the controversy back, an independent podcast dedicated to the conversations that matter most, no matter how controversial. Today's episode, obviously, as you can tell, is the City Council debate. So we were here doing a City Council debate before the July 21st primaries. For those that just haven't voted yet or still are unsure who to vote for, they just kind of hear from some of the candidates on where they stand on some of these issues. So I do apologize for the stream not being on Facebook directly. We had some issues with that, so it's just here on YouTube for those watching. Before we begin, today's debate is brought to you by Marketing Coordinators, a social media management company that brings a mix of content and strategy designed to grow your business and keep you top of mind. For our realtors out there in the audience, Marketing Coordinators has an exclusive plan to help listings get more exposure and move faster. Reach out to Elaine Trevino to find out more. Thank you to Marketing Coordinators. Make sure to check them out, as we'll have their contact information in the description down below. All the contact information for all the participants and myself will also be down below in the description for those that want to check that out. But yeah, just really quick on the debate format for those that are just tuning in. We're going to be asking a variety of questions. We have 8 questions prepped tonight. We'll also be willing to accept the questions from the audience, so you're free to submit those questions in the chat, and then we can ask those at our own discretion. For each question, we'll have an opportunity for each candidate to respond. We might ask a follow-up question. They can respond to that. And then we'll kind of open the floor for further discussion on that topic or question. Each question is tied to a topic, and that's how we'll go with that. So I'll be moderating. Zach over here will be the timekeeper. So Zach will be keeping time. He'll start the timer when you guys start talking, and then he has a 30-second paper that he'll hold up when you have 30 seconds left, and then he'll kind of let you know when you have 5 and 10 seconds. You don't have to use the whole time, but Zach will be there keeping time in case you get to that time limit. We'll try not to cut you off, so just when you see that, just try to wrap up what you're saying if you do approach that time limit. And then if we do open the floor up, that's not going to be limited on time. That's kind of just however we feel we want those conversations to go on. If there is a conversation, and then we'll move on to that next question. But here today for the City Council debate, we have current Vice Mayor Vincent Manfredi and current candidate for the City Council, Adam Leach. So we'll be starting with opening statements. There will be about 3 minutes. So we'll go ahead and start with Adam first.
Awesome. Hey, man, thanks again for putting this on and stuff, because I think it's important for people who are a little bit on the fence and who they really want to vote for. But again, everyone, I'm Adam. I lived in the city for 20 years. I have a volunteer coach, probably a bunch of different sports. I also volunteered Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, a lot of other organizations as well. I've always just had a passion for helping out people and then like serving the community. So now I just want to basically serve it on a bigger scale. And yeah, I'll leave it as that.
All right, thank you. Vincent.
Vince Manfredi. I'm currently the vice mayor. I've served on city council for a little over 11 years now, looking to continue what I've been working on. I've worked to help guide Maricopa through the growth that we've seen, tremendous growth, while keeping focused on things like public safety, infrastructure, transportation, and all the other good stuff that we work on here. One of my top priorities has always been the SR 347. I've worked on local, regional boards and state levels to secure, hundreds of millions of dollars for widening interchanges and all that good stuff that we need to get done for the SR 347. There's going to be a lot of questions that come up, and they've come up throughout the campaign. I believe we have enough apartments. We need to begin and work on always attracting good paying jobs and creating a community where residents can work, shop, raise a family without having to leave the city for things like work or shopping. I don't accept campaign donations this term. I'm just looking to get some stuff done. It's going to be my final campaign for city council. I'm not running for the next office either. I'm not running for supervisor or Congress or state legislature or governor, like some people have said. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I enjoy being on city council. I have had opportunities to do those other things like state legislature, and I've turned it down. I'm running to finish the work that I've started here on council, protect the progress that we've made for the 347, and prepare Maricopa, which I love and I live in, for the future that we're going to have. I'm trying to just earn people's votes and see where it goes.
All right, thank you guys. We will now be moving on to the first question. This is going to be related to infrastructure and transportation. So State Route 347 continues to be one of the community's biggest concerns. It's the one road that a majority of us drive on every day. Now that funding has been secured and improvements are underway, I would assume that some aspects of the project are outside the city's direct control. What role should the City Council play in ensuring the successful completion of these improvements, and what other transportation investments, if any, should be prioritized or considered beyond just the 347? And we'll start with Vincent.
With me?
Yep.
Yeah, so the 347, as I've said, we're working on it for the past 20 years. You know, ever since the city became a city, we've been working on fixing the 347, right? Thankfully, in the last few years, we've had some tremendous progress. And everybody knows that technically, and not technically, but really, it's fully funded for what we need to do. Those are overpasses at Riggs Road, overpasses at Cement Plant Road, interchanges, fixes at Casablanca, and so forth. I'll leave some of it for Adam to say, right? But there's so much happening. What we need to do is make sure that we're protecting the progress we've made. And that's what I do, where I'm sitting on boards like the MAG, Transportation Board, as well as CAG, Central Arizona Government, and Arizona League of Cities and Towns, Infrastructure and Transportation, as well as, of course, Pinal Regional Transit Authority. So by sitting on these boards, what I've been able to do is grow relationships throughout the state that allows us to make sure that when the thought process might enter the heads of somebody that can make a decision at the legislature or at the governor's office to maybe pull back some of the funding, that we have a say in what's happening because we have seats at the table. Some of the other cool things we're working on, of course, and Adam's been pitching it a lot and talking about it a lot, so I'll leave one of them to him to explain it. But the Green Road Loop as well as the East Road Loop, and bringing those down so you come off the 347 before you get into town, and then you're able to avoid the interchanges at Smith Enke, of course, and at Lakeview, allowing more free-flowing traffic throughout the city. And of course, you have down below, south of the city, Sonoran Desert Parkway. That's just another way to get us to the 10. And then, of course, the all-important I-11 eventually, which will come up on the west side of town and bring us all the way from the 10 back up to the 10, the 202, and get us on the west side of the valley. And that will be a full interstate highway. So a lot of work happening. And just because we got the funding for 347 doesn't mean we're done. It just means we can move on to the next step in the progress of what we need to do. Sorry, that's a long one, but go ahead, Adam.
Okay, cool, awesome. Yeah, again, everyone talks about it all the time. 347, traffic, getting into town, out of town, the road. It's always terrible accidents and such. For the last probably 2 years or so, I don't know if anyone knows, it's called 347 Facts, right?
Mm-hmm.
.com. They're basically a group of community people come together. We basically meet regularly. We talk about that. We obviously have been fighting to get funding for that road, which basically the whole group did. But the biggest thing that I've seen actually going there was how many people show up for the ADOT meetings and just speak regularly, telling them like why we need the funding for that road. And I think it's important for people to recognize it's not once, like it takes years to get funding, to get in front of ADOT to say, keep on telling them, this is why it's important to invest that money of putting on the 5-year plan. And I think now by hearing that, Now, like I want to pivot to, which basically Vince said was Seed Farm Road. Like I think we need to exit east out of town because
Yep.
again, at the end of the day, growth, population. If we don't focus on that, and maybe again, Green Loop Road, like those are things we're going to have to do. But again, as your future city council member, it's just being present, showing up to meetings, just like Vince said. MAG, there's a bunch of other acronyms of different organizations and boards that people go to, but it's being present and saying, hey, Maricopa needs funding. This is why we need it. Because if we want to leave this town faster and easier, it's basically voting for people that are going to show up to those meetings.
All right, thank you guys. I did have one question for Vince. You mentioned the different boards that you're on. Those seats at the table for Maricopa, is that could you share more about that? Is that just something that anybody could do, or is that specific to something that you have? Like, what could you go into more detail about those seats?
Yeah, so for me, sitting on the MAG Transportation Board, what that is a board that is not every city that's a member of MAG. And MAG, by the way, it's Maricopa Association of Governments. So Maricopa Association of Governments is an association of all the governments in Maricopa County that have joined, as well as some in Pinal County that have joined after the fact. So Maricopa decided to join MAG many years ago. I think it was like 10, 11 years ago, when we knew that we needed some help on the 347. And the fact that the 347 is halfway, or half of the 347 or a little more, is in Maricopa County, any funding that's going to come for additional lanes as well as Riggs Road and stuff like that, a lot of it's going to have to come through MAG, because what MAG does, their funding comes from the half-cent sales tax in Maricopa County. So you're talking billions of dollars. And what do you do with those billions of dollars? So we wanted to make sure we had a seat at that table, so that billions of dollars, we had a portion of it. By being on that committee, what it allows me to do is have that seat. And the committee itself doesn't mean every person or every member gets a seat. So it rotates around. So I sit on there because of the experience I have and the relationships we built. Doesn't mean we get to keep it if I'm not there. Now, over time, somebody else will be able to join and get on that seat, but it takes time because other cities want their time to sit there. So if I leave, or when I leave, the next city will get my seat, and then we'll apply and get another seat sometime down the road. But the goal is to make sure that we have a seat at the table. And that's just MAG. I can go on for another hour about all the others. and RTAC and all of those. RTAC is a Regional Transportation Advisory Committee. I'm sorry, and it deals with rural. So it's a Rural Transportation Advisory Committee. So there's so many things and so many meetings, but I only had 30 seconds and I took a minute.
All right.
Now you're good. I gave you a little leeway there.
So the follow-ups are just a minute 30 seconds. And then for Adam, I had another question for you, Adam, relating to that. So Vincent obviously mentioned a bunch of future potential projects beyond the 347, and that's been a conversation: is what's next beyond the 347. But it's also well known how hard it was just to secure funding for the 347. So if funding was limited for these future projects, what would you prioritize for the next steps after the 347 if that funding is limited?
So I guess it's kind of, I just need to get some clarification. So are you talking about funding limited from ADOT or from us, from the city?
I guess both. I guess just
Okay.
in general, if the funding is limited.
Sure. So again, I think it comes down to it is what's a really priority, and not just for me, it's for the residents. And again, I have championed that for probably three or 4 months now. It's Seed Farm Road. Like that is a east way to the I-10 within 15 minutes that you could be on the I-10. Instead of taking everyone in East Maricopa somewhat south and having to go right through the heart of the city all the way through, like why not focus on that? I know there's equal opportunity on Green Loop Road, both west and east, but again, that still helps traffic go around the major part of the city, but still puts everyone back on 347. So again, if you'd ask me, I think funding goes to Seed Farm Road next. Then from there, you refocus back on the two loops, west and east. But yeah.
All right, thank you. And then before we move on to the next question, we'll kind of open the floor. If you guys have any comments or anything you wanted to say to each other.
Nice shirt, Adam.
Thank you. A little bit of a drop right there.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna see if I can switch. And what was that question, Nick, or was there one?
No, there was no question. It was we get to talk to one another, and I said, "Nice shirt."
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Damn
thanks.
computer.
Hey, I didn't hear that. So hey, it's another like praying. Boom. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I don't know why it's not working. All right. So I guess some people are saying I guess the internet connection's a little bit choppy. So I don't know what that is. I don't know if you guys can see everything fine over there, but
I think mine's working. Let me log on. I'm gonna log on through. I'll look at it on my cell phone.
yeah. Because that's what I'm on, is on my cell phone. So I just had
It's working.
someone comment to me saying how I should reach out to and go on my laptop and join. But if I can just stay on here, I will. So I'm
You're a
gonna
little
see.
choppy, Adam.
I'll just. Am I? Okay.
Yeah.
Give me a second. I'm gonna see if I
Everybody else
can.
isn't.
Yeah. All right. Give me a second. Yeah.
No problem. Take your time.
All right. Maybe because it could be my hotspot. Let's see. Does that make it better at all or no? Because I was sharing my internet with my laptop, so maybe I cut it off. Is that better, or should I jump off and go to my
You
other?
sound
It's still-
fine. Your
yeah,
video's
your
a
audio
little
Now
is
it's
fine.
good.
It's just the video. So
Okay, whatever. It is what it is. Because I mean, I don't know if it's. I mean, it's pretty clear on high end, but it'll be what it is. They can get the gist of it all, I guess.
Yep.
okay, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So if you're good to go, we can keep going on. If you did want to switch
Yeah.
at any time, just let me
Yep.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll move on to the next question then. This relates to public safety. So you guys can probably assume what this question is going to be about. But it's no secret that flock cameras have been implemented across the city as an additional tool for law enforcement. Supporters claim that they improve public safety, whilst critics raise concerns regarding privacy and government surveillance. Where do you stand on this issue? Should this technology be expanded, maintained as it is, limited in its usage, and why? And then we'll start with Adam.
Great question. Again, I can't tell you how many times I've been asked that face to face, online, DM, text, and such. Again, I personally feel that there's a place for them, but not here. Like, I don't like the access, or I should say the availability for people to hack into it, get the access and such there. Personally speaking, that's just kind of how I feel about them, where they do have a value, and maybe in some cases, but not within the city, not where we're at fights and stuff that basically say, okay, that we can help police and track down a car and whatever. But again, there's been so many stories out there with cameras being pointed in a backyard, a playground and such, where again, when you rely on a third party company to come in and install cameras, there's no really true overlay to them, right? Like, that data is very accessible to anyone. Maybe that's something that the local government state should have maybe looked into, to maybe something that they could actually monitor, then instead of just a third party. Because again, as everyone knows, data has such a value to it, where that's really what's the priceless pot, is all that data that's out there. And if it's not securely encrypted, then I think that's too much of a risk. So I guess in long story short, I would be a thumbs down on that. Or I am thumbs down on that.
Vincent?
Yeah, a lot of people believe that flock cameras are useful, and there's just been recent stories. A purse guy that got somebody killed, somebody else that killed somebody up. I think it was Gilbert. They were caught. No, Santana. Santana, I think. I forget. But they were caught through flock cameras, so they were able to trace them throughout town, follow them where they were going. Boom, caught them. So flock cameras, I guess, can be useful. My belief is, though, public safety doesn't mean that we give government unlimited access to all of our movements. Cameras, they need to have strict rules, which ours do. They need to have strict limits, ours do. And they need to have strong security and regular oversight, which my Chief Goodman, has said ours do. And that's all good stuff. So if we're using the technology in the right way, fine. But what I want to do is make sure that the current agreement is going to expire in the coming years. I think it's 28, I think exactly. But the current agreement is scheduled to renew. I'm almost positive it's 28, might be late 27. And before I vote on anything that has to do with a renewal, I want a complete public review and input from our residents. So I want to have public meetings, public discussions. I want to hear from everybody. Now, the loudest voices on social media, of course, hate flock cameras. But does that mean everybody in the city hates it? So I want to have a full public discourse, a full discussion about it, and then go from there. Because my role is to act as a representative of our people. And one of the craziest things is our marijuana dispensary. You know, I don't want a marijuana dispensary in the city of Maricopa, although I put a sign over there because it's a lot of traffic. But the reality is, people voted almost 70% for a marijuana dispensary to be allowed, and for marijuana to be legal in the state of Arizona. So the reality is, our people wanted it. So our people are going to have that decision, and they're going to tell me whether they want them or not. And if they don't want them, we're not going to have them. It's that simple.
So Vince, if you don't mind asking, or I should say, answering this,
Yeah.
why did the city not take it out to the public before they approved it?
I think it had a lot to do with it was offered to our police department as a free program, a free trial, a test. And in my opinion, we should have went out and had more conversation about it. I didn't know what a flock timer was, before the controversy over the last couple of years. What I was told that it was a license plate reader that would help to protect in case, God forbid, something crazy happens. In the city of Maricopa, it's been used a few times to actually catch a missing adult, I believe it was, a senior that was missing from their home, as well as a missing child, and has stopped or has caught perpetrators of other crimes too, car theft and things like that. So my position is simple. We can use technology, but to protect the public, but never without accountability, transparency, and safeguards for public privacy, because that's what's really important.
Yes.
Is making sure that the public is involved in this conversation, and it's something that we as a city, I believe, failed in the past, in not having this conversation beforehand. But I think only most recently it's become really like this taboo where people are out there cutting them down in some cities, and and I don't want to see that here in the city of Maricopa. What I want to see is a great discussion about it through full transparency and discussion. We had the same thing when we allowed firearms and marijuana. So firearms weren't allowed in our public buildings when I was first elected. But what I did is I said, why not? So now you can conceal carry in our public buildings, our city hall and Copper Sky. You can actually conceal carry. But that was a full discussion we had over, I think it was like 6 months. We had public meetings, we had discussion, and we finally voted. It was a split vote, but we finally were able to pass an ordinance. And I think it was us and I think Gilbert. I could be wrong. It could be Goodyear, Gilbert. I think it's Gilbert. That have the ability to carry your firearms, concealed carry in City Hall. So these are important things, but you can't just make a snap decision. They have to be full discussions, and we probably dropped the ball on that.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. You know what I mean? Because I've had so many people ask me that all the time, like, why wasn't ever asked and stuff. I'm like, hey, it's a great question, and obviously, why not ask it now? Because it should have. I think because again, anything that our residents basically have something to that scale should be aware of it, and maybe the fact of having some sort of demonstration or something to say, okay, here's the true benefits. There's this hearsay out there and all the whatever there is, and here's the benefit. Here's the why behind it, I guess.
Yeah, and I spoke with the chief about flock cameras, and Chief Goodman told me that we're the only people, the city of Maricopa, that have access to the feeds. So to the information, that our information is locked for the city of Maricopa, that other outside agencies, although they provide some of the hardware that's on the street, the flock system, the actual data is only available to our officers.
Okay.
So that's a good thing.
And then just to Adam, I was curious if what would be some safeguards that you would put into place if elected the city council, kind of in regards to the flock cameras. If we had what are some safeguards you could do?
Sure. Again, if I was the only voice that could control that, I would basically pause them until we basically do a deep dive into it, right? So it wouldn't be active until there's a review. The residents have a full understanding of all of that and where the data is. So they have a full understanding of them. The council has a full understanding of them, and then from there saying, okay, fine, is this a value add to the residents? What do the residents feel on them? So it's not to say, okay, still keep them there. Like I think there should be a pause on them. There's lots of residents that don't even know what flock is, and when you do tell them, they just hear those stories again. So I think if we pause it and truly put that on the agenda to say, okay, this is someone from that organization, that company, and they're going to explain it all, and this is the benefit. Come here, come to a public hearing, whatever it has to be to educate people. Because again, social media is not every doesn't tell you everything that's always accurate. There's lots of people that like to tell stories there. That's not true. But yeah, I think that's really what I would do is I would pause it.
Yeah.
If I could.
Some of the safeguards are pretty simple. And you expect them to be in place. You know, any access should be limited to law enforcement personnel, used only for legitimate investigations. Every search should be logged and subject to review by superiors. Data should be kept only for a limited period of time. These are important safeguards, and they are in place here in the city of Maricopa. Don't get me wrong; these are in place already, according to our chief, and that's a good thing. They shouldn't be used for. Don't get mad at me, but they shouldn't be used for immigration enforcement, political activity, or just routine tracking. I've heard some horror stories where some police officers, not in Maricopa, but in other parts of the country, have used it for tracking spouses. And no, that should never be there. But what we need to do is require clear rules in place when data can be shared, all of that stuff. And then what disciplines should be in place for misuse. And then, of course, I believe there should be public reporting. We know they're there. It's not a secret they're there. So tell us how many cases have been solved using it, and how many times has it been used. If it's been used 5 times and we've solved 5 cases, that's a good thing. But if it's used 100 times and we solve 1 case, that's probably a bad thing, right? So I really want more information, and I've spoken to our chief, and we're looking at making sure more of that information is available.
Sure. Because again, I mean, I would always see it as who checks on those cameras to ensure where they're always like pointed at, right? Is it always on the street? Is it always focused on the plate? Because again, at the end of the day, someone has access to move that camera. Like I believe it was up in Chandler when they was found out there was one pointed right at like a local playground. I guess it was a school or whatever. So I don't know what the validity of what that was that people pointed there, but I guess that's what I see it as. Because if you allow it to a third party company, it gives you their access. It's not the police that has control of them to say, okay, this is what that you can see. It's again a third party. You know,
in some
so that's
cities,
kind of how I view it.
Sorry, I thought you were
go for it.
In some
That's
cities,
right. It's right. Go for it.
In some cities, it's crazy. Not crazy, but it's different, because here in the city of Maricopa, Flock is only our police department. But in some cities across the country, it's HOAs have Flock. So an HOA can sign up with Flock. I don't know if people realize that, but an HOA can sign up with Flock, or a community development or some sort, where it's like an organization of businesses, you know, those kinds of things, where the Downtown Alliance or something like that, they can sign up with Flock, and that's different, right? Here in the city of Maricopa, it's only the police using it, but I still think there needs to be full transparency with it until we can really have a full discussion when it comes time for the renewal, if it's available. I don't think the contract allows for a complete stop today, but I can check. I'll talk with the chief about it.
Okay.
And then we had a question from the comments, so I'll go ahead and read the question, and if you guys want to respond to that.
I don't see any comments.
What government apparatus will regulate them? Is anyone willing to do this on a local level?
I don't understand that question. I think we discussed that a little bit. What government apparatus would be the police department? They're the people that would regulate all of it. I don't know if there's anybody above the police department that would be doing that here in the city of Maricopa. I think the police department should be reporting information to staff, to the city manager, as well to the city council, and then we can oversee, make sure things are being done correctly. But the reality is it comes down to our police chief and his role to make sure that they're being used appropriately. If I interpreted the question correctly.
I look at it honestly, if it's a third party company then they should be coming to the city council, vice mayor, mayor, and giving us a presentation on what they've been up to, the data,
Yeah.
the cameras, you name it. They should be coming to us because yes, police uses that as a resource, right? A tool. But I don't really believe they should be in the hands of only the chief because, yeah, it helps their officers and do what they have to do. But I think as a city council, they should be the ones that regulate that tool to say, okay, they're not doing a great job. The data's poor, whatever the situation is. And it's their contract with the city council who approves it. So why not them be the tool that regulates that, I guess. That's how my stance is, I guess, on that.
Yeah, I would love to have them come in and hear from them.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of just the way I saw this question, and is like, should Maricopa as a city, the city government, be at the forefront of deciding policy on flock cameras, or other maybe government bodies that we can look to? Is this something, if any of you guys know, is this something being talked about at a state level, like with state regulation? Like, what other government entities are talking about regulations for flock cameras, or is Maricopa going to have to start that effort?
I would never want that to be in the hands of the state. Let's just, at least personally, I would not. I would want to keep it local because if you get in the hands of the state as a local resident here, we would have no option but to follow that. So personally speaking, I think the agency or the decision people should be your local government, your city council, vice mayor, mayor. Those are the people that should oversee that. I would never want them in the hands of the state.
I agree, 100%. It should be in the hands of local government. Local government is the closest to the people. Local government are the people who shop with you, who attend the 4th of July and sit there and chat with you. We're the people who are most accessible to the public. So local government should always be involved, or should be in charge of the stuff, or saying no to it, right? Because right now, if the state were to regulate it, that means the state could say it's allowed everywhere whenever we want. And I don't want that. I don't need the state telling us what to do in the city of Maricopa. They do that enough.
Did that answer it, Nicholas?
Yeah, I appreciate that answer. Yeah. And then did you guys have any more comments or thoughts for each other, or we can move on to the next question?
No,
I'm good.
Yeah, move on.
Okay. All right. So next topic is going to be related to sustainable development. So the concept of sustainable development is often described as meeting today's needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet theirs. With Maricopa being located in a desert and growing at the rate that it is, sustainability has become more prevalent than ever. How should the city balance economic growth, environmental factors, and long-term quality of life when making development decisions? And we'll start with Vincent.
Are you saying how should we balance? You're cutting out just a little bit.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
The volume. So what was the final part of that question?
So I'll just repeat the whole question. How should the city balance economic growth, environmental factors, and long-term quality of life when making development decisions? And this is related to sustainability. Yeah.
So we have to make those. We have to balance everything when it comes to everything that we approve in the city of Maricopa, right? So when you look at it, economic development is not just. Some people think of it as putting in a light industry, or even Lowe's, right? Opening a Lowe's, economic development. I see economic development in a bigger scope, right? You look at economic development, it starts for me with transportation, housing, right? If you don't have transportation, you don't have the right housing, it's really hard to bring economic development or jobs to the city of Maricopa. Now, people say, well, we have enough housing, and I think we do. I think we have enough apartments. But what I look at is we need other types of housing. And I'm not talking about we need more rentals or we need more single-family residences. I think what we need is a variety of single-family residences that'll help with economic development. Because if you're going to bring a large business here and you make, widgets and you make good money doing widgets, right, or whatever the heck you create, sometimes the housing here just might not be good enough. And don't get me wrong, I love the housing here. I love my house. But some people want acreage, right? And they want a 2,500 square foot house on 4 acres, right? So how do we do that? How do we bring that kind of development to the city? And you see that in the northern part of the state, like northern part of the valley, sorry, where you have the diverse housing, not just single-family residents, single-family rentals, multifamily rentals, but you have the ability to get a house that you want to be in, right? And I think Adam spoke about this a few times, and some others. I was talking to a realtor in town, Dave Morgan, and he said that's a question he gets, and he would love to see that kind of development built in the city too. So when you look at it, when you talk about economic development, it's not just bring something, right? It's all that stuff that comes with it. You said something about environmental concerns. We have plenty of environmental concerns, right? Dust as well as flooding. And how do we make sure we meet all the needs, including water safety, water quality, while growing? And that's just making sure that we as a city hold everybody true to our ideals and what we want in the city. And that's why we have a review process through our development review, and we have standards, building standards, and all of it in place. So I hope that answers the question, but economic development is not just one thing. It's a tremendous amount of things smashed together and called economic development. And by the way, it's one of the hardest things to do as a city, is understand all of the needs that a business has before they can relocate or locate in the city. So it's working really hard. Christian Price is
I think that's
working
time.
on that.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was time.
Gosh.
I was kind
Sorry.
of waiting
Yeah.
for you to finish.
Yeah, I
this
didn't know
up
if you were
there.
gonna finish
I
the
didn't know how
sentence.
long
I'm
you were
sorry
going
about
on for.
that.
My apologies, guys.
Yeah, no, you're
I
good.
wasn't
You're
looking
good.
at
Yeah,
the
I
tab,
don't want
I
to
was
cut you off
staring
like
at the
mid
thing.
sentence.
Yeah. Okay, Adam.
No worries. So I guess kind of just summary that question, right? So it's stability, economic development, and something about environmental stuff. Is that
Yeah,
kind of
so
like a short
yeah,
summary of that
the
question?
main focus of the question is on sustainability. Like, how can we make Maricopa more sustainable as a city?
Sustainability for sure. And again, I think it starts and ends with basically you reach out and you formulate kind of like a correlation, like I guess you want to call like a group of people, right, that are basically knowledgeable experts in there. Where when I'm elected, I think that's important to create that new committee of what that is. And there are those are local residents here within the city that bring a different diversity there. So if it's a realtor, if it's a land developer, if it's commercial leasing person and such, so just to put them together in a room to say, okay, guys, what do we really need? How do we create stability here? The rent, to have those deep discussions, because again, as a city council member, you only hear from the negative. But I think to help really create that is going to be creating that board of diverse people from different backgrounds within real estate, economic development, from the banking side of it to different industries, to say, okay, what are we missing? How can we make this happen? And as a core, I can't remember the word, but it begins with the C, but to bring together that group, because again, as a city, we have a lot of first time homes right here. We have now, I mean, way more than enough apartments here to last us a long time. And I know people share data all the time and housing stock and housing and housing. We need apartments. And it's like there's a place for data and then there's real world stuff. And that real world is there's no industry here. We need industry here. So we need champions, right, to basically go out there and say, why not us? And I think that's really kind of how you stabilize it, is you have to bring industry, you have to bring diverse housing here, which is, like Vince said, kind of your tier 2, tier 3 home, something that sits on acreage, something that's not just your typical tract home that's there. Because again, I've spoken to hospitals about that. To bring a doctor down here to who live here, they're like, there's no housing here. I don't want to live in a very tight environment. I want a semi-custom home, and Maricopa doesn't offer those things here. So I think again, it comes down to is having that committee of people that want to come together as a core, like bring their minds together to say, okay, how can we really push this city to create stability? Because again, at the end of the day, when the market, which we can see, it flattens out, our city flattens out, and that's not good for us. That's why, like, part of my job when I'm elected, I'm going to champion is to bring industry here.
All right, thank you. And then kind of just as a kind of a follow-up question, both of you can answer this. Part for me, when I'm understanding sustainable development, part of that is how can we add more green spaces to Maricopa? What can we do to make Maricopa more walkable? Something for me with Maricopa, and I think other people might share this as well, is we have one road that goes through Maricopa, and everything is kind of along that one road. That's where all our commercial is along John Wayne Parkway. What can we do? What can you do as a city council member to improve sustainability for Maricopa in terms of just making it more of a walkable city, adding green spaces, just things to get people more less using vehicles and other forms of transportation.
Vince or me? You
Either
pick,
one,
Vince. If you want to
whoever wants to
go,
answer that, or both.
I can do it if you want.
Vince, do you want?
Yeah,
Yeah, then I'll go after you.
For me,
Okay.
it's pretty
Or,
simple.
or yeah.
I am personally a guy who loves riding a motorcycle, but I just bought an e-bike. Scary, by the way. It only goes 28 miles an hour, but the reality is driving around the city of Maricopa is nuts. I'd love to be more trails, and here's an example. On Saturday, I rode it around town for a little while. Sunday, actually. I rode it from my house in Maricopa Meadows, and I went down to the CAC for the farmers market. And then when I was riding back, I took Castle Grande Highway. And when I went over by where they're building Starbucks, which is a lot of development off the John Wayne Parkway. So I went by there, and I went down into the wash. And I wish that wash was more suitable for riding a bike. It was not. I rode it about a mile, and then I made a left into the wash that was there. That was a mistake. But when I looked at it, I could see walkable space there and having trail space systems there. They have them in Mesa and Gilbert. I've seen them. It's really cool. And one of them in Mesa, the wash is so big that they have a baseball field in them and a football field. It's pretty cool. In the city of Maricopa, we're working on that actually today. So we're working on creating a system of trails and walkable spaces that connects the HOAs and the developments to one another. That would allow you to walk from somewhere like Rancho El Dorado, if you wanted to walk that far, all the way down to Copper Sky, or ride a bike or an e-bike. Riding an e-bike's pretty fast, actually. It's probably a lot quicker than walking, but some people love walking. I'm not one of them, as you can tell. I'm not that good shape. But some people like walking. So having the ability to make a walkable city is a great thing. But a lot of the stuff is being spread out now, and like you mentioned, a lot of it's on John Wayne Parkway. But if you look at the developments that are happening over by Walmart area, there's a lot going on right there. A lot of it's doubling what's on John Wayne Parkway because of all the housing that's going down there. And then we're going to have a lot of development south of John Wayne Parkway, well, it's still John Wayne Parkway, south of Copper Sky, when Vestar finally starts their improvements down there. And I hope they're targeting a good date for that, because if their target is good, that might be fun. But we'd have to find out what they're building. And, for me, you know, the availability of just being able to travel without the car is a good thing. And we're working on that as a city.
Awesome. All right, yeah. Again, I would say to like kind of what that Vince said, but again, I've been part of Parks and Rec committee there. It's a committee of members who throughout the community, probably on and off twice for probably maybe 4 or 5 years. In there, that's been talked about a lot is a trail system to come through the city to basically connect us all. I just be careful on what you call green spaces, because again, with water, we have to conserve that. So I don't know if you'd really want to call it green spaces, more about walkability or connectivity than it is a green space. Because I don't know about you guys, but I would not want more grass, because that means it's going to take more irrigation to basically take care of that. And obviously water is very, very precious. But again, just like Ken said, you have e-bikes out there that is going to be great as far as the overall trails. I think there's plans in the CIP. If it's not this year, it's in 27 to be starting to work on some of those things. But again, I think that's something as a city, because keep in mind, we're only 22 years old. That's pretty young. And everyone wants everything, right? We want a trail system. We want better roads. We want commercial stuff. We want different types of housing. So it's like, if you think about it, living here 20 years and what the city was and where we're at today, it's a lot has happened, you know? And I think that if you see the next 5 or 10 years, there's going to be a lot more that's going to happen from there. But I think, again, if we continue to push trail system, development puts in those, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard of village centers. That's something very popular that you see in Texas, Florida, and such. Those are kind of like your anchor stores, Lowe's. You have walkable restaurants or food, which is that Panera Bread and stuff that's over there. And they also want workforce, which is the apartments. So they want that triangle, which is called that village center. Hence why Home Depot, when they broke ground, what came next was those forever rental homes, those apartments, and then you're getting that walkable food. That's really where the future sits. I know there's a future Fry's grocery store that's going to be east south of Maricopa, which that will be another village center out there. I know there's conversation too about even, I think it's I don't remember the name, but it's out near Tortosa. Could be a smaller commercial space there as well. But again, it's village center, and then you'll get that walkability from people's homes or apartments to go to eat or shopping inside.
Yep.
Yeah, and then did you guys have any more comments or questions just between each other? All right, cool.
I think
just real quick before we move on to the next question, we have some more people that joined us.
awesome.
So if anybody that's watching, if you guys have questions, feel free to leave them in chat, and then we might ask those questions at our own discretion. And then again, just for context, we just have two candidates here today. The idea and planning for this event was just in the last 2 weeks, and so a lot of people just had schedule conflicts and just couldn't make it today. And so we're happy with who we have here today, and so we're trying to make that work the best that we can. So apologies for that for those that wanted to have more candidates involved in this. But invitations were sent out to everybody. But yeah, kind of just moving on to the next question. This one is pivoting a little bit the conversation. This one's going to be focused on campaign ethics. So do answer this question really how you feel best to answer this question. But artificial intelligence has become increasingly present within our daily lives, with the internet being plagued by what many refer to as AI slop. As AI continues to grow, some have been increasingly concerned with the ethics of AI usage, especially younger demographics. Here in Maricopa, we have seen plenty of AI usage across social media, whether that be flyers, posts, or statements. Where do you believe the line should be drawn regarding AI usage in political campaigns or city government? And what standards of transparency, if any, should candidates hold themselves to? And then we can start with Adam.
Well, that's a very loaded question, I guess, because again, I think with AI, right, it's going to be in our world forever now, moving forward. People use it for lots of things. Again, I know there's campaign guidelines that we all have to follow itself, but again, I have always ran my campaign above approach, right, where I always want to focus on me, what I want to do for the community itself, and I always put content out there that's truly truthful. It's not made up stories or things or whatever. It's truly true information right from the source itself. So I think like AI is a tool to be used to help maybe write some things, but again, it shouldn't be the only source, because again, at the end of the day, if you're going to speak to a candidate or speak to your council member, you're going to want them to bring their own thoughts and not have to read it from their phone when they're asked a question. Because again, at the end of the day, it's how intelligent really are you? And AI can only help you look intelligent, but there's actually how that you speak in front of people.
All right, thank you, Vincent.
Yeah, I mean, AI is part of our society today. I mean, it is. I used AI to do, I'm doing a graphic that says 7 more days, 5 more days, 6 more days. That probably would have cost me $200 to get it done by a developer, or not developer, designer. Who knows? I don't know how much that would cost. Or I could design it myself over 5 hours because I'm stupid when it comes to designing. Or I can ask AI to put it together, and I asked it to put it together, and in 10 minutes it had 5 graphics, and I was like, holy crap. And I can post those online and say there's 5 more days, 4 more days, 3 more days, all that cool stuff. Where I think a line is drawn is when, you know, I was talking to somebody today about it, and AI has made semi-smart people seem brilliant to people who don't know what they're talking about. So let me explain what that means, right? If I go ahead and I put together and I tell AI, come up with a transportation strategy for the city of Maricopa, it's going to put out a 10-page, 20-page report, right? It's going to tell you this is what needs to be done. But the reality is, if somebody doesn't know anything about transportation in the city of Maricopa and they read it, you're going to be like, holy crap, this is the greatest thing ever. This person's brilliant. But somebody that knows about transportation in the city of Maricopa and understands what's going on and the funding mechanisms of the state and all that stuff, if they read the report, they're like, this is crap, right? And I think you said slop, right? That's what this is. Mm-hmm. So in reality, the line is drawn when you're letting it create your entire campaign. And I'll give you an example. I think it was Texas. I'm not sure if it was Texas or maybe South Carolina. I can't remember. But it was like a month ago. A young woman, she won a primary or some sort, and she was showed up, and they were like, "Well, who are you?" And she was like, "It's me." And the pictures she used from AI were nothing like her. And she won based on these pictures that made her seem 20 years younger. And she won, and everything she did was all AI. And when she spoke publicly, it sounded nothing like the person who was doing the AI typing. And that's the problem you can have when you have a campaign where you're not out there actually interacting with people and you're just putting out AI slop. Now, thankfully, that's not a problem here in the city of Maricopa. All of our candidates are out there and working hard and doing stuff. But can AI be used too much? Yes. I don't think that's a problem here in the city of Maricopa today, but it can be in the future. So it has to be looked at and understood.
Thank you. And then I know, Vince, you kind of touched up on this with your response. So I'll ask this question to Adam. What do you see any role for AI in city government at all, or is there can a line be drawn with AI usage for city government, not campaigns aside, but city government?
I believe at the city council meeting last night they were talking about that briefly. I think it might have been Quinn or something about AI and tools and getting like reporting and stuff. Like there is a place for that because again, it comes down to efficiency, right? So if AI can generate a report within minutes for you that could take you normally days or weeks, why not, right? But again, it's just like even a campaign, it can't be the source of everything. It's a tool, but not everything. So I think with local government, state, AI has already been there. It will be there. It's again just a tool to use to help you be more proficient with your job, but not use for everything, I guess, in any, because it's data, and then you still have to have the intelligent person to review that data to say this is right or that's wrong or we have to change this.
Yeah, I think anything you type into AI should come with the bottom line, should say, hey, check this crap, right? I mean, honestly, it should say, check your facts, man, because some of this could be wrong. It should tell you that, but it doesn't sometimes. And I had someone send me something, and it on the bottom of it, it said, this is a, this should work as a conversational piece when discussing. It was like, it was AI. They asked AI to do something, it did it, and they copy and pasted all of it, but they forgot to leave off the bottom of AI telling them what they did. And I was like, really? Because you can tell. But I gotta tell you, AI helps when you're trying to put something together really fast, especially reporting. Here's a quick example of it. And it was mentioned a little bit yesterday. We're using, I think it's Tracer, I forgot what the name of it is, but it's a program that allows us to see how many people are in certain areas of the city at times. And it's the stuff that's available on your cell phone all the time, right? You ever go somewhere and then your cell phone pops up with ads, right? Because you passed by something. It's called geofencing. So basically using that kind of technology is important because we can tell how many people were at the Wild West Music Fest this year, where in other years you have to almost guess. You got to send up a drone and then look at a big picture and then try and put little quadrants in it and see how many people are in each one. It's a pain in the butt. Now you can take that same picture, send it into an AI system, and it'll say there's exactly this many heads in that photo. Crazy stuff. So it can help, but it should never be, in my opinion, should never be just autonomous, and it should always have somebody watching it, controlling it, and verifying what information is being used.
Sure. And then just a tip on that too, again, like I think there's a place for AI in development services, because if you can expedite the permitting process, where you can submit it through AI and say, okay, here's the plans and here's what it is, it can review it in minutes and come back and say green light because of all the coding, everything that's done behind the scenes. Could you imagine being able to get a permit for a home a lot faster, a commercial space that much faster? But again, it makes our life more efficient, right? Because again, if you're going to build a shopping center, the interest rates, what it takes, right, to basically, okay, from start to finish, I look at it as like if we can make it faster and easier for a developer to come on the commercial side of things because of AI, then why not, right? Instead of taking what could take months and months just to review it, Let AI review it and have the intelligent person say, okay, this makes sense because I took the time and effort to give it all that information. But again, I guess the answer to that is there needs to be a cap. It can't just be AI runs everything.
Yeah, it can't be. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I didn't mean for the question to sound so loaded to begin with, but that is something that some people talk about and have concerns about. Is even just
Yep.
simple things like trying to AI generate a flyer. That's something that
Yeah.
we see a lot here in Maricopa. Is small businesses utilizing AI so they can help promote their events. Because they just
Yeah.
don't have the means to pay somebody else to be able to produce those flyers.
Mhm.
So we see all those AI flyers all the time being spread around, especially on Facebook. But that is just an ongoing conversation that some people have is where is the line drawn to AI usage? Some people are like some AI is fine, some people are like no AI whatsoever, right? So that's why I asked that question.
Yep.
True, but
But
here's the thing though, too, buddy. It's also generational, right? So
yeah,
depending on who that you ask, like my sons, they grew up with technology. That's all they know is
Mhm.
that. So AI to them is going to be like a personal assistant, but on steroids. If you ask someone who's 70, they're going to be like, I don't know what AI is. I'm used to my Rolodex and using my phone and remembering their phone numbers and mailing out cards. So I think there's a time and place for all of that. Because again,
yeah,
too, as a micro business owner, for me, even personally too, I'm going to use AI to create a flyer for my property that I'm trying to sell. Why? Because it's cheaper and more efficient. I might have to tweak some stuff, but if
Mhm.
not, I'm going to pay a designer $250 to come up with that same flyer. So again, I think it's kind of that future, but being able to just monitor it too.
Yep.
Mhm.
yeah, for sure. Anything else, or we can move on to the next question?
We're good. I'm good, buddy.
All right, cool.
Mhm.
So next part is this is in relation to economic development. Data centers have been a hot topic of debate all across America, especially here in Maricopa. Advocates believe that a data center can bring increased economic development and tax revenue, whilst opponents share concerns over things like water, electricity, and noise pollution. Does Maricopa want a data center? Does it need a data center? And what powers would you have as a city council member to respond to any form of proposal of a data center? We could start with Vince.
Yeah. So a data center, does Maricopa need a data center? No. Does Maricopa want a data center? I'm not sure. Many people, and you gotta, when you look at what Maricopa wants, right? You gotta look at the microcosm in which it's said, and you look at social media. And social media, the biggest voices are seen and heard, and you watch, and you're like, and it might be the same 10 people saying the same thing, but there's 80,000 people that live in the city of Maricopa. And I can tell you that I see the same 50 names online ranting about me all the time, right? But there's 79,800 or 950 more people in the city of Maricopa who are not on Facebook ranting, right? So and complaining or saying what they want or what they don't want. So you got to take that when you think about it and say, is it needed? Oh, sorry, is it wanted? Right? I don't know what everybody wants. I do know that I look at it as I don't know if we necessarily need a data center in the city of Maricopa. It's not something I would be like jumping on to vote for. No, because it doesn't offer many jobs. According to a lot of people, it sucks out energy, sucks out water. I know there's closed loop systems and all of it, right? But any data center is going to be different than another data center. So there are smaller data centers that bring in a data center of sorts, smaller, but they have a lot of co-working space too. Does Maricopa need co-working space? So you got to look at that. Now there's data centers. There are 1 million square foot data centers for Amazon or Google. I don't think we need that because what do you have? 100 employees, but then you have the availability of water, electricity, water rates, electricity rates. I know there's closed loop behind the meter, and I've done a lot of investigation as well as visited a data center right here in Chandler. So when you look at it, you asked a few questions. You said, do we need one? I don't know if we need one. When I talk to data center operators, they say it's better for latency. Well, I haven't been, I mean, Adam's camera right now is showing some latency, right? But other than that, that's just because he's on whatchamacallit system. He said he's on his Wi-Fi. But I think we're doing pretty well without a data center. When I put those things into ChatGPT and asked for those pictures, it was minutes. I don't know. And then you said, do they want? I don't know. We're going to have a full discussion about that over the next couple of years as data centers become more prevalent, and if anyone actually puts a permit to build one here. No one has done that so far. We've had a couple of people look at the area, and there's one, I think, south of the Ak-Chin that's looking to put one in there on some land down there, and SRP is building a plant and all that kind of stuff. But that has nothing to do with the city of Maricopa in terms of what we can control. Now, can you control it? You can in some ways. If the land is zoned for it, then they could build on it. So
I think that's time.
Hey, yeah, I hate to stop you there, Vincent, but like that was time.
Yeah.
I was letting you kind of finish up.
Adam.
Yeah, no, yeah, Zach, just
Continue.
you're holding up
Okay.
the paper. Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah,
staring
okay.
at the screen. I'm staring at my camera, so I'm making eye contact. Sorry.
Yeah, again,
I have
just
small
real
on
quick
my
before you
screen.
respond, Adam, just those watching, the initial responses for these questions, we're just keeping them to 3 minutes, and then afterwards we kind of open it up for further discussion. For anybody that was confused on how we're doing the timing, we're not trying to give anybody any unfair time or opportunities. But yeah, so Adam, if you want to go ahead and answer the question.
Sure. So I guess again, summarize it. Does the city need one? Would I want one? And then what was the other part of that?
Yeah, so it
Controlling
was,
it. Controlling it, I guess.
Yeah,
Control
so
or
yeah,
something.
does Maricopa
Yeah.
want a data center? Does it need a data center? Or like, what powers would you as a city council member have if any proposal was made or somebody was trying to make a data center? How would you respond to that? Or how can you respond?
Sure. Sure. So again, like similar to Flock, right? I think again, if a data center wanted to come here within the city limits, I think it's important for the city itself, as me as you may be, hopefully future city council member, have a town hall. You have to gauge the vibe of the city, the residents, right? Because it's not fair for me to say, yes, I want one, no, I don't want one. When again, it's like Vince said, there's 85,000 people here. So the half a dozen or 50 people on social media or 100, whatever, say no, anti-data center, doesn't mean the rest don't want it, right? Again, jobs, if it's 50 jobs, 100 jobs, whatever it is, it's still jobs that the city doesn't have currently now. There's infrastructure that you can get out of them too to say, hey, if you're going to build this here, we want road improvements, we want this other allocation of funds. So to really answer it, it's not as easy as a yes or no. But personally, if you had asked me personally, would I want a data center within our city limits today? No, personally, I don't. But that's not my only voice, or should say my only opinion. I have to take the opinion of the residents to say, okay, if 30,000 people said, Adam, I want a data center, I can't say no if 30,000 people say yes. That's my job, is I have to listen to them. So it's kind of a two-sided way. If personally speaking, I would say no. If the resident said yes, then I'm going to push for a yes. And then if it is a yes, then how do we get the best deal possible for our city? And like I mentioned before, it's what can they give us money towards the road improvement or whatever that needs to be. Like I said before too, is if they were going to make that data center south of here, and I know about going back to ADOT, trying to get funding for south of 347, well, why not position to that data center, give us money to widen that road? You're going to drive down there with 100 people that work there, expand that road. So I guess really that's how I look at it, is really that. Like everything is a negotiation. If it really has to take place and it comes through our city, then we as a city council should leverage that and say, okay, if you want something south, what are we going to get out of it to benefit the residents here? But again, to circle back, I don't want a data center anywhere within here. I don't think they really look great. However way you want to look at it, closed loop or not, there's personally speaking, there is not a benefit that I see having a data center personally here. But if the residents said, Adam, go get it, we support you, then that's my vote. But again, it's a two-sided, because again, if you're a city council member, you can't just take your personal view into that decision. It's the residents. That's who voted me in. That's who I have to listen to.
All right, thank you. And then Zach, just make sure just hold the 30 seconds up a little longer too.
Okay, yeah, I can
Yeah.
do that.
Just
I'm sorry,
hold
buddy.
for
I
a
didn't
minute.
see you because I blocked you, buddy. I blocked
Yeah,
your
no,
photo.
you
because
were
of
within
that.
the time. I just because Zach will show
Cool.
it and then he'll remove it. So I just because I know you guys aren't always
Yeah.
looking at the camera.
I get
So
this is lagging a
No
little bit,
one's.
so I can't tell if you're looking at it or
Yeah, I get you.
yeah. Any other comments or questions between you guys about
Yeah.
data centers or economic development?
I'll add into it pretty simple. The city of Maricopa does not have the current rules in place to say no. to something or no to a data center or things like that. So what we have, or if a data center was to come in and look at property that's already zoned and allows for a data center, and they just come in and say, oh, we're building, right? So what we need to do is we need to have guidelines in place, and the city council as well as the city staff are working on ways to bring those guidelines to a council meeting and have that discussion, vote them, put them in place, and make it part of our city code. So we have to do that, and it's the same code that we'd have for housing developments or commercial developments. We need to have a code in place for data centers. We have one in place, believe it or not, for adult entertainment, and of course for smoke shops. And so we should have something in place for data center, because that has a large impact on our city. And we're working on that, and that should come through hopefully in the next couple months.
Vince, and I would ask you this: why not the city have, again, like a temporary committee to help give some structure to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you were saying earlier was a coalition of sorts.
Yeah.
And I think a broad coalition works. And something like we've done for our 2040 visioning plan, something for our general plan. We brought people together as a coalition for our general plan. So something like that can work for this data center thing. But it might even be the same people that worked on the general plan and had those conversations. So it just takes people getting involved. And it brings up a great thing is, like, we just brought our AMP program back, and that was just basically our Maricopa Advocate program. It was our MAP program. Now it's called our AMP program, but it brings people that have gone through some of our courses, like Nicholas did. He went through our Citizen Leadership Academy, but after that, you come out of the Citizen Leadership and you're like, now what? So bringing coalitions, bringing people together to have those conversations is a good thing. So the AMP members could be able to do that. But I'd like to see actual people that maybe don't even live here that have dealt with this.
Yeah.
People that are in government in Gilbert and Chandler who are dealing with this on a daily basis right now, of data centers wanting to come, Phoenix. We haven't dealt with it. So I want to learn from every other organization that's out there how they've dealt with it, the conversations they've had with their communities, and how do we move forward. And that's important. So that makes sense, Adam. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got Death Storm warning on my phone, so stay safe out there, guys. And if I keep looking down my phone, that's just me trying to read chat. So I'm not trying to be rude looking down every time. That's just me trying to read it. I don't have a second monitor, so.
That's okay, man.
I've used my phone a few times, sorry. People are texting me saying, hey, what's the link? So I'm sending them the link.
So, yeah, and then I guess moving on to the next topic. This is about information disorder and transparency. So information disorder is kind of an umbrella term that's utilized to describe misdis and malinformation. Maricopa is no stranger to this, as people share all sorts of information online. Just recently, I was seeing some people talk about data centers, and people were trying to talk about how a data center is being built near Maricopa. There's a proposal for it. And I saw some other elected officials kind of jump in on that. They kind of like, no, there's no data center being built. And there was some back and forth, but they were trying to have a conversation about it, trying to talk about, well, I heard it from this. Well, no, it's not true. Okay, but I heard it from this too. Okay, but that's not true either. So kind of seeing that discourse go back and forth. But to me, the issue with that is the people who saw the initial message but didn't see the rest of the conversation. That damage is kind of already done. Now that's already out there. And now it kind of spreads like wildfire a little bit. People are now spreading that around. Now we have a rumor going around saying a data center is being proposed near Maricopa, right? That's just one example of that we see, especially just during election season. That's more common now. But that's just something we see that we see online. On top of that, the city has a variety of ways to communicate things to the citizens of Maricopa. They have the social media accounts, they have the newsletters, I think a text message system as well, just different ways for citizens to kind of learn what's happening in the city. But like for me, the one thing I always hear all the time was, I didn't see that, or I didn't know about it, you know? So kind of I know that was a lot of context, but kind of in relation to that, what role should the city council play in kind of combating information disorder while remaining transparent, and what, if at all, could the city do to better improve outreach to its residents? We can start with Adam this time.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I guess it stops and ends with how eager the council member wants to put themselves out there, right? So if you want to do meet and greets or town halls or Facebook Live or whatever, you're going to be the source of the majority of the true information and not just hearsay, right? So I think that's kind of an avenue there. Controlling it, I think, goes down to city staff and kind of what they put out there social media wise and whatever their content is. So I think there's a multiple prong there, right? You have a city council member being reachable, accessible to the residents and say, okay, here's true factual information. I'm out there. This is what's out there. This is what's coming. This is what we're talking about. City staff putting out their social media, wherever that is, this is truthful information. And again, just like Vince said, is also that ANT program, right? Those are the champions within our city that can go to their groups, their spheres that they are, and saying, hey, if that conversation comes up about a data center, like, no, here's some factual information. Like, this is truthful stuff. And I think it starts really with that. Because again, social media is not the place where everything is always true, and people hear something, they jump up on it, whatever else. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I had people ask me, Adam, they're going to build a data center in the middle of town. What are you going to do about it? Why? Whatever. It's like, where did it even come from? Because if that even happened, you would see it. I think it's, well, I heard it on social media, or I was at this party and someone said this. It's like, that's not even true at all. And it's kind of like almost like 30% of this campaign has been debunking people's weird truths that they have.
It's true.
Really? That's really what it's been, debunking and saying, no, like, here's some information right here. Like, this is actually factual right here, you know? So, It's all you, Vince.
Oh, for me, it's pretty simple. I don't know if this is a 100% true statement, and somebody might want to debunk it, but the reality is, I've probably been one of the most accessible council members in the history of council members when it comes to my last 12 years on council. Now, you guys were younger, so you don't remember. But back in 12 years ago when I became a council member, I think you guys were 8 or 9 years old, man. So when I became a council member, social media was not as prevalent as today, a little less, but Facebook was, out there. And I made a promise back then. I said, if anybody ever asks me a question on social media, email, text me, come up to me at Fry's Supermarket, I'm answering the question. And I've taken that kind of seriously, and I talk a lot. And so I'm on social media a lot. And I've gone to the point where I get tagged and stuff, and they say, and somebody posts some asinine thing and says, Vince Manfredi, you want to speak on this? And I'm like, I guess. Now they tagged me and they asked me a question, so now I got to answer it. And I'll answer the question. And the problem is, I come off as the bad guy because I debunk the question. And I'm like, well, that's not entirely true. It makes sense if you were to say it that way, but unfortunately, this is the facts. And I give a bunch of facts out. So we have to make sure that we're providing factual information as council members. We can't provide half-truths and things like that. We can't say we hope things are happening, right? Or even agree with stuff. But we also have to get involved. And as council members, you have to be on social media because that's where the people are. You have to answer your emails. I don't know how many times people tell me I've sent emails to the entire council, and this is not disrespecting my council, but they say only a couple people responded, right? You have to answer questions. You have to talk to people, and you have to be open, transparent, and accessible. This debate is kind of like is something that should happen with just council members during non-election time, where we get 4 or 5 council members on a conversation and have a discussion. I know there's open meeting laws, but if you're not talking about something you're going to actually vote on and have an impact on through a vote, then yeah. So I don't know my time. I got 30 seconds. So we have to make sure that we're having truthful conversations and making sure that we're giving out factual information. The city's role is pretty simple: provide the facts. And I don't know, I can tell you how many times the people in the city hall are asked questions by me. And then I take those answers and I come right back to social media and provide it out there. So just be factual. That's what the city's response should be.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Just a lot of the conversations have shifted to social media. So I think as just like a follow-up question, and we could start with Adam. Can you think of any maybe solutions or ways that we can increase just social interaction in person, trying to shift conversations from online but to in person between your neighbors or between those living within your community?
Again, like I've done, I can't tell you how many meet and greets, random like pop-up events, whatever. I mean, I've done, I don't know how many, but I lost count, 20, 30 of them, I guess, in the last like probably 4 months. And I think it's really that. And I think it's putting yourself out there in a position where the residents are to say, hey, I'm Adam, blah, blah, blah. How are you feeling today? What are you up to? What's your concern? What's your gripe? Whatever that is putting yourself really there, because again, social media, you might not even be in the city and someone wants to comment about, oh, I can't believe they're making a second McDonald's or a third one or whatever. And it's like, you don't even live here. Like, what's the point of who you are? But if you ask people who live here, they're like, hey, I actually like that second one that's going to make because it's closer to my home. You know what I mean? So I think it's really that. It's like, you really just have to be approachable like I am. Like, I don't care. I mean, I'll talk to anyone under the sun. Doesn't matter where you're from, where you are in this city. I'll ask you anything. You know, and then I think it really starts with that. It's just not having a fear of what? If someone gets mad at you over what? Just let them vent, and eventually they calm down, then you figure out what really the problem is, and then you can say, okay, here's the true information. Have a great day. Or make it a great day.
I did about a year and a half ago, maybe 16, 18 months ago, I did a meet your council member type of thing. I wasn't even vice mayor at the time, so it was council member like on a corner type thing. And I did it at City Hall, right there in the lobby on a Saturday morning. So City Hall's closed. I have a key, of course, a keypad thing. So I said, front door, come to City Hall, come on in, we'll sit in the lobby. You ask me whatever questions you want about the city. One person showed up. And then we just had an event during a campaign. The Chamber of Commerce and Be Awesome Youth Coalition put on this wonderful event. Everybody can have a table there, all the candidates, and it was geared towards people who are early voters, 18 to 24-year-old voters, right? People who should be getting information. And sadly, I think 5 people showed up that were in that age range. That was it. And I think, Nicholas, you were one of them. And Zachary, you might have been there too. So, you know, it's like, how do you get people to come? And people have become so reliant on just looking on social media. And so they don't want to go to events anymore. And that has been a weird thing is, you know, it used to be you had a town hall and you'd get 50 people show up where you're like trying to end it because they're asking so many questions. Now you have a town hall, you have 5 people show up and one person wants to dominate the whole thing by asking tons of questions that are more conspiracy theory than anything else. But, you know, it's like, how do you do it? I don't know. And if I knew it, I'd be a millionaire today. You're just trying to figure out how to get people to be engaged. But you just got to keep trying.
Right. Yeah, it's like I said, I think you have to put yourself in their space.
Yeah.
If it's going to Copper Sky, Dog Park, go there, talk to the people, right? It's soccer, parents watching their kids play. It's, hey, by the way, I'm Adam, what, blah, 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 whatever questions that you have to put yourself in their living world. Then it is expecting them to come to you because everyone knows, at least I know, how busy my day is. How am I going to squeeze in another hour to go sit down and basically talk to someone or listen to someone talking at the town hall? So say, okay, fine. If I have the time, I'm coming to you. I did it at the Greek restaurant. I did it at Water and Ice. I did it at the library. I did it at Copper Sky. I mean, I've done it just basically in the Price parking lot. I mean, you could be surprised at what people ask you. I was like, hey, actually, I thought about this. Like, why is this happening? Or how come this isn't happening? And again, huge topic, apartments. Why are there so many of them? But again, you put yourself out there. And I think it's really that, Nicholas, is you just got to be out there. You know, go on the day of, like Vince said. Yeah, exactly. Can't avoid them and go on the day of come to me. You got to come to them.
Yep.
And social media reaches the masses. So that's why people use it. But again, you got to put yourself in their space.
Yep.
You know, like personally, I think that event, if it was held in the high school and it's really hard, but you want to do it during the election season, but you do it during when kids are in school. The seniors are there.
Yeah, you do it before
like that's when
and you have a senior day where they can come in and talk to the candidates at the MAC Center or PAC Center. That would be excellent.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah, because they're already there. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then if you throw in food, because what teenager doesn't want a free food? They'll eat and then they'll listen to you. And then, you know what I mean? I have 2 of them. You know, it's almost like they hear the pizza box opening.
Yeah. So Nicholas and Zachary, there's going to be a general election, right? It's going to happen
Yeah.
after this primary, and it's going to be September, October, November. School's in session. You guys should plan something with the school district to have it at the PAC Center where you can invite all of the seniors to come because some of them are over 18. They can vote, but also the ones that are 17 need to learn about government and what's going on, and you could say anyone up to age 24. You know what I mean? Everybody can come, and it happens after school, right after school, 3 to 6 or something like that. And you can get candidates to set up tables, and it's made for that age group, and that would work, especially at the school. But they did that CAC, which you'd think would work because the kids at going to CAC, a lot of young adults. The problem was school was out, so it wasn't. It was like just some building in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So while school's in session, I think it would make a lot of sense. And maybe it's not at the high school. Maybe it's back at CAC, but while school's in session, and they could leave class and come in and talk to candidates. There's so many ways, but we got to make it more available to people. And going to province used to be great because you show up and you have a conversation. But I mean, there was an event there that Adam and I weren't even invited to. And then there's another event that happened where the 8 people showed up, 10 people. I think Adam might correct me on that.
Yeah.
8 to 10 people.
Yeah,
showed
about
up.
that. Yeah.
And it was supposed to be a round robin where you go around and talk to people, but there was nobody to talk to. At one of the stations, there was nobody, no voters. So you basically sat there as a candidate for 10 minutes waiting. So it's kind of weird, but I think a lot of engagement has faded because for whatever reason, I don't know the reason, but a lot of engagement has faded, and it's really gone back to this dang social media where people get their stuff off there, and there's a lot of conspiracy merchants or whatever you want to call them. There's a lot of people out there spreading false information, and they do it purposefully.
Yeah.
You give them the right information. You're like, this is the right information, man. Here's the facts. Here's the links. Here's the information. And then next day they post the same false information. You're like, what the hell? So it's hard. It's really hard.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, move on.
Yeah. So last question here. A lot simpler question. So it's about city budget. So everyone has their own view on how the budget should be spent, as balancing a city budget requires careful and sometimes difficult decision making. How would you rate the current state of the city's budget, and where would you prioritize city spending, and where, if at all, could spending be reduced? We could start with Vince.
So here's 2026's budget on my desk, right? And then right here is 2025 and 2024 budget right here. So I keep them right here at all times. People ask me questions about the budget all the time, and I give them links to the budget. And I would rate our budget process as 100%. I think we do a great job on the process. I think Matt and our financial team is top notch. I'd be surprised if somebody doesn't try and grab him as a city manager one day. Right? Because he understands the budget. He comes at it from not just a government view, but a private sector view, and looks at where spending is happening. Now, you could always point to something. I mean, there was an article today about lights on the underpasses. I didn't know how much was being spent, but I looked at it, and that's an administration thing. But you look at it, you're like, oh, that's horrible spending. But you got to look at everything, right? And you got to look at where the money was spent, why it was spent, and what was done besides the light. And that was all the stuff under there. So everybody could pull one thing and complain about it. Shit. Oh, sorry. People complain about the city should give out more information, and then the city contracts with a company that I own, and they give out more information, and people complain because it cost them 15 cents a page. 15 cents a magazine to put that information out. They're like, oh my God. So everything can be looked at in a microscope and looked at and said that's bad spending, right? But the reality is our budget process is great. Our budget process makes sure that we don't spend all the money we bring in. What we do is we look at ways that we can save money by using the resources we have. A great example is our old city manager, Rick, he found a lot of cell phones that we're paying for, but they weren't actually used. And they were just lines. And he looked at it, he's like, whose lines are these? And they started calling them and they were like, whoa, there's 10 lines that aren't being used. You would think that's simple, right? But that saves us tons of money over years. So it's looking at those efficiencies. But that's small. When you look at our budget, we want to make sure we're lowering property taxes, keeping our revenue at least where it should be so that we can pay our bills. The biggest cost in our budget is the cost of public safety. So well over 50% of our budget is spent on public safety. And I know a lot of people say, well, it says 48%. The reality is the proposed budget people look at is, 48%. But the reality is that's a proposed budget with a lot of stuff in there that's not going to be spent. But in government, you have to budget for it, even though you might not even spend it. And an example is if you're going to propose maybe going out for a grant, you still have to match that grant in your budget as spending. But if you don't get the grant, you never spent it. So our proposed budget has a larger budget.
I'll let you finish your last point, though.
And I'm sorry, what happened?
I'll let you finish your last point, and I want to cut you off.
The budget the overall budget goes down a little bit when it becomes an actualized budget. And when you look at the actualized budget, we're well over 50% in public safety. So that's a large part of our budget, and I don't think we should be less than that. It should be about 50%. That's what it is throughout the entire region. We just have a smaller budget because we have smaller revenue than most cities in the state. So go ahead. Sorry, I apologize. I did not see a paper come up, and I kept looking out of the corner of my eye at Zachary.
I know. It's not like you can't see my screen that well anymore.
Yeah, no problem.
Right.
You know what? Feel free to just go beep at 30 seconds. I don't mind.
Right.
Go ahead, Matt. I'm
All
sorry.
right. So, sure. That's right, man. So, budget. Again, people talk about that. This has been a hot topic. Again, public safety, right? Everyone wants their piece of that pie. They want to basically get a raise. They want the MOU. They want to basically raise. That's all it's about, right? Budget, money, police, fire, public safety, right? That's all you hear. But I think, again, at the end of the day, that I've also heard from other people, I think until I have a full, complete understanding of the actual budget itself, which is basically takes like almost a degree, hence why I would want to meet with Matt, because that's some stuff in there that's like way above my pay grade, right? So I guess to really look at that budget, sitting down with him and then saying, okay, like, are we making sure that the city staff, and that includes libraries, all of them, right, have a solid quality life where they can stay with us, stay with the city, retire here? Because if I walk into that library, I want to see the same Kathy 5 years ago still there. I don't want to see Kathy having to leave because Chandler poached him because Chandler gave her a few dollars more an hour. Like, to me, I don't want to see that. I want to see talent from that level. I don't want to see Matt leave either. Because if Matt's doing a great job and financing is there, then like we need to basically try to keep talent. So it's hard, right? Everyone wants to say, okay, fire gets more money, police gets more money. Okay, well, how many fish that can you feed out of that budget, right? Of a city that has no industry, we have no jobs really here. The city and the school district are the two biggest employers. So outside of that, where do we find money to pay everyone? So again, at the end of the day, to try to answer that, to balance that budget, which the city council has done for years, right? Which we never had a problem with money, being which we don't have industry, which is amazing. We really that. And it to me is I want to ensure that all city staff have a quality of life where they're getting the raise, they're getting the benefits to keep talent here. Because again, who wants to basically see talent leave? Like I personally don't want to see Nick leave, that guy who puts on amazing events either. That guy sacrifices his family for us to go to a concert in the park. As his wife and kids are there, he's there working his butt off, and the rest of his team and that staff there. So I think it's really like people don't see it. They just focus on the captain obvious. Police, fire. They want money. We want money. They need to have money. Well, what about the person who does events, or the library person, or the janitor, or whoever they are, right? They all have a quality of life too. So I guess that's really where they keep it as that. It's a very hard decision. It's a hard decision to try to feed that many fish with a small bucket of money, or I should say chum.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's pretty much all the main questions I had. Just anybody that's still watching, if you have any questions for the candidates, please get them in now.
Yeah, I see
Hey,
a
I had
question.
one question here that I'll ask. What are your thoughts on providing more police presence on 347 and the Casa Grande Highway? We could start with, I guess, Adam.
Like again, I mean, Vince is probably more knowledgeable than that than I am, or maybe even the chief. And I think Council Member Amarin too. There's like a correlation, or I don't know how to say that word, but whatever. There is a basically law enforcement presence that she's been working on to ensure 347 has more of a police presence. Casa Grande, Maricopa Casa Grande Highway, the same. It's one of those things that I think that the chief and what they look at, what you need to have to beat the officers are really there, right? But I mean, I don't personally, they should be everywhere because where I live, obviously there's not much to do, but there's kids that drag race. So I don't think it's just 347 Maricopa Custer Highway, it's the whole city in general. So do I want to have an officer leave this community so they're on 347 when it's like, okay, like what about the rest of these cities? So again, it comes down to a balance situation, which I would leave that in the hands of the chief and his other people that and judge that. They know better than I would.
Yeah, Adam's correct. I mean, it comes down to resources, number one, right? It's how many police officers do we have in the city of Maricopa? Can we afford to take those police officers and send them on to the 347? No, we really can't. We can't afford to patrol the 347. But the good news is the Department of Public Works, DPS, they not works, public safety, sorry, they've been patrolling the 347 a heck of a lot more recently. And with the construction happening on the 347, there's going to be even more patrols out there. So within the city of Maricopa, we have tons of patrols. We've actually hired 6 new officers recently. Our traffic enforcement department has increased in size. Our tickets are rising, and how many people we're ticketing. But not only ticketing, it's just educating. You know, when I ran for office 8 years ago, I came up with this acronym, you know, MOVE, right? And it was basically more lanes, we're getting that. More overpasses, we're getting those. But it was also violation enforcement, V, and E, education. So the V and the E are coming now. And we're really talking about making sure that people understand what they're supposed to be doing out there, where they're supposed to be driving, how they're supposed to be driving, and all of that. Our traffic enforcement team is putting together these really cool videos that explain, did you know that you can't drive in a crosswalk when somebody's in it, even if they passed, blah, blah, blah. My daughter actually got hit on the 347 in a crosswalk because a car came around and smacked into her. She was in a crosswalk and she had the the white walk guy. But it just happens. So education is important and violation enforcement is important, and we need to increase patrols within the city using city budget money. Hard for us to increase patrols on the 347. That comes to Pinal County, which Rich Vitiello, our Pinal County supervisor, has said that during the construction over the next 3 years, that he's going to push to make sure that Sheriff Teeple, for Pinal County Sheriff Teeple, is increasing patrols there, as well as DPS. So that's the goal on the 347. And then Casa Grande Highway, same concept. We need to make sure that within city limits, we're patrolling it as much as possible, but then we have to worry about Pinal County doing it. And if you watch Fridays with Frank right here on social media, you'll see him pull over people on the Casa Grande Highway once in a while, and sometimes on 347. That's pretty cool. I saw that was a question on social media. Oh, what were your thoughts on providing more police? I think it was Jessica Hedler asked that question on the YouTube channel. There's some more questions on there.
Yeah. So this one's for you, Vince. As Vince has spoken about going against a good old boy system in the city, can he expand on what that means?
You know, I try and be politically correct at times, and I fail 90% of the time. When I talk about the good old boy network, I'm referring to a small group of political insiders, special interests, you know, long established people within Pinal County. They're power brokers in Pinal County who believe they should control decisions behind the scenes. They don't want to be elected officials, but they want to control how elected officials act. They want to control who's on city council, who's on school board, who's on county offices. They want to be able to control those things. It could be people connected to developers, people connected to political organizations, lobbyists. They expect loyalty and stuff. They'll throw out endorsements and they'll throw out money at candidates, right? And they've had control of Pinal County for a very long time. But with all the new growth in Pinal County, some of that good old boy network is not around as much inside local government, but they want to be, so they try and peddle influence. I've never accepted that system. I've butted my head against it for years. I don't take campaign donations from developers, utilities, public sector unions, none of that. I don't believe council members for political office should owe favors to anyone. I used to take donations from friends and family, a couple $100 here and there, but those are friends and family offering $50 to help on a campaign. But my responsibility is to the residents of Maricopa only, not to special interests. There are people outside the city who'd like more influence on our council. They are frustrated because they don't currently control it. And I believe decisions should be made publicly, independently, and based on what's best for Maricopa. And I know that's weird to some people, but that's what I believe. I don't think they should be based on who donated to who endorsed who, or who expects something in return. So for me, that's the good old boy network. And it's not the cigar smoking in the back room that you see in movies, but it's people that want influence, and they try and influence local elections. To me, that's the good old boy network of Pinal County. And you just take a look. I mean, look at some of the stuff that's happening, and look at some of the development that's happening outside the city of Maricopa. So, and that they want to happen. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. I know that the question wasn't for you, Adam, but did you have any comments or anything, or no?
Not really. I mean, obviously that I agree with Vince. That's what that is, right? It's not what you see on TV all the time. It's that, because again, in politics, there's always that chance, right? Someone who is in the public space, opportunity for the private space to come at them and here's some money, here's some endorsement, because down the road, I'm going to need this favor from you. If it's money, permitting, whatever that is, that's what it is. And again, if you truly have the best interests of the community, why would you ever want any of that? Because all it is like, I look at it as leverage over your head. Why would you want leverage above you, right? Because then at that point, how can you truly have the voice of the community and listen to them and actually vote on a decision that's for the community's benefit, you know?
And then we have another question here. Maricopa continues approving new housing while residents deal with traffic, limited healthcare, and strained infrastructure. At what point, if any, should the city slow or pause residential growth? We could start with you, Adam, if you want.
Yeah, great question. I get asked that a lot, being a local real estate agent here, and like I've sold people. I'm a licensed realtor or real estate agent, and I'm against growth, which sounds really crazy to say, but I think if you put higher impact fees to basically put a developer to say, hey, maybe this doesn't pencil, because I don't like that word, or when kind of hear that to say, well, we need this to pencil, so we need to do more houses in a less of a space. Well, if it doesn't pencil, then go to a different city. Because I think, again, as high density housing, if you look at apartments, you look at first time homes, we have more than enough of them, right? And why would you want to saturate a community of just all of that, right? Because again, at the end of the day, that's up to P&Z, that's up to development services. And by the time it comes to us, like, as much as, like I've said this before, like, it just shouldn't come down to just, we are just a entry level home city or a retiree, and that's where it comes, right? Because if we're going to continue to have safe, smart growth, you're going to have to introduce a middle tier housing to this community, and you're going to have to learn to say no, and you're going to have to learn to increase impact fees. Like if I was elected and there was another apartment community that wanted to get developed here, I'd do everything I could to put the impact fees to the point where it doesn't pencil, because we don't need any more. And if they actually want to pay it, then fine, they paid it, but then all that money goes to infrastructure then, or whatever that needs to be. And that's probably a Matt question to answer, but that's where I would be, because I guess to long story answer that question, it's really that, you know.
What was the question again?
Yeah, it was Maricopa continues approving new housing while residents deal with traffic, limited healthcare, and strained infrastructure. At what point, if any, should the city slow or pause residential growth?
Yeah. Slowing or pausing growth is almost impossible in the state of Arizona. And I want to be clear on that. It's not that we don't want to slow growth. It's not that we want unimpeded growth, but the state of Arizona is making it easier and easier for developers to do what they want. And they're trying even more. We've defeated like 4 or 5 bills over the last 2 years that would made it so easy for a developer just to come in and start building without much say at the city level. But growth growth should never come at the expense of the people who already live here in the city of Maricopa. Maricopa has grown quickly, right? And we continue to grow quickly, but our roads, healthcare options, commercial properties, infrastructure, all of that have to keep pace. Now, I do not support residential growth simply for the sake of adding houses. I look at residential growth as part of what I mean by houses, rooftops, right? Because that includes multifamily and rentals. I look at growth as the city should slow down stuff like multifamily. But how do you do it? What you got to do is understand that if the zoning is not in place, you got to make sure that they're going to apply for zoning changes. In the past couple of years, the state has tried to make that really hard, really easy. Really easy, hard on the city, but easy on developers. We need to make sure that the adequate infrastructure is part of any plan. And Adam mentioned development impact fees. Our development impact fees pays for what they're wanting to do. So if somebody wants to build 100 houses, the $9,000 per house, right, that comes in has to be used for things like public safety, infrastructure, our library, parks, and of course, I said public safety, right? And making sure those things are paid for. And that's what development impact fees pay for. I believe we have enough apartments in the city of Maricopa. I believe we have enough of those single family rental houses. And I believe that one day we're going to see those turn into like condominium types, and they'll start selling them. Our focus should be on completing State Route 347 with the infrastructure that needs to be put in, developing additional routes outside of the city, adding the loops that we talked about earlier. And if I had to choose between city resources or using money to attract other large residential development, I'm gonna go on the side of improving the quality of life for our current residents. I would choose our residents over new developers every single time. That means safer roads, better traffic, more healthcare, parks, recreation, and we can just keep going on forever. But growth should pay for growth. That means we need to have those impact fees like Adam mentioned that should pay for growth, and every major proposal should demonstrate how it benefits the city of Maricopa and how it pays for its own growth. That's my opinion. Because the people that call Maricopa home need to feel that their voice is being heard.
And then last question here, so we can start wrapping things up here. And then Zach, if you could time this, so we'll keep this one short to just a minute 30 seconds, or if you don't want to use it the whole time. But where do you want the city to be in 10 years? We could start with Vince.
You start with Adam or me?
No, you Vince. You Vince.
What I want to see for the city in 10 years is a place where people can work, live, and recreate. I want people to be able to travel like I do right now. It wasn't that way always. I used to work on the Broadway curve. Eek. It was a hard drive every day. But now I work 5 minutes from my house. I could ride my bike, e-bike, or my motorcycle or my car and come here, right? So where do I want to see this place in 10 years? I want to see a place where more people are having that. I want more entertainment in the city of Maricopa, more things to do, more quality of life events. I mean, we had a movie at the park it was like 2 months ago. It was so cool. We had hundreds of people watching a movie, Zootopia, I think it was. I forgot what movie it was. But it was a great example of what the people want, because they were here on a Friday night. I think it was Friday night. They were watching a movie and sitting together and recreating together. And that's what we need. We need more parks.
3 more seconds.
We need more parks and more fun. So that's what I want to see.
Yes.
Adam.
Cool. Yeah. So 10 years. Yeah. I mean, who knows how this city's going to look? I sat in the general plan committee, and what we're trying to come up with there and stuff, and just trying to think of, okay, what could the city look like in 10 years? I mean, look what happened to us in 5 years, right? So just like Vince said, and I think most people are going to say, it's your quality of life here to basically live, work, play here, right? Have industry here in 10 years that are quality paying jobs for people to be born here, eventually maybe get a job there, retire here, have that whole cycle of life. You know what I mean? Have fun here, socialize. Just like Vince said again, which again is just echoing, but it's like moving the puck, right? Sense of community to be like, hey, I know him, that's Jerry or whatever, and I've seen you before and whatever. Because again, at the end of the day, listen, I've told people this all the time, the one thing that we can't buy more of is time, right? So 10 years goes by in the blink of an eye. So people stress over things, but it's like to see 10 years where we're at, quality life, industry, safer commute, leaving the town, hopefully multiple ways of leaving and not just north.
30
You
more
can go
seconds.
east, maybe west, but really that's where I want to see the city in 10 years. I mean, that's, yeah, but I'll leave it as that.
Okay, so we're just gonna move on to closing statements. This is 3 minutes each, but up to you and how much time you want to use for that. But one thing I would like you to share in your closing statement was just what's one idea or quality that the other candidate shared tonight that you generally respect or found thoughtful. And then we can start with you, Adam.
Okay. First of all, I don't have much time to think about it, but again, closing wise, I know this has been months into the making. The primary is, I don't know, 6 days away, whatever, on the 21st. There's so many people out there that either could be undecided or if they have made their decision. There are 7 quality candidates from different walks of life, from being on city council for almost 12 years to people that have never been on it. They volunteer in different communities. I think just do your information, right? Fact check on who it is, who puts in forth the effort, who really puts out a true platform and goals they want to accomplish. I had a lot of negativity from people saying Seed Farm Road, it's not even on the budget, no one's talking about it. Again, at the end of the day, don't you want someone that's innovative and wants to put something that's out there and not just go with status quo? And something that I think Vince put out there is just his ability to share information. That, I mean, again, and I respect that. Most people don't like the man, think he's some words, but again, the guy's a wealth of knowledge. Love or hate the man, he has what he has. It's 12 years. I'll leave it as that. And one other thing, thank you guys for putting this on.
Yeah.
Vince?
For me, I think the question was, the end of that question was, what did somebody, repeat it just quickly for me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a quick thing to add in your closing statement. Just what's one idea or quality that the other candidate shared tonight that you generally respect or found thoughtful?
Yeah, I mean, the fact Adam's talking about Seed Farm Road is very important. What I respect about Adam is that he's not afraid to ask questions, and that's a great thing. Tina's like that too, Tina Dugan. They're not afraid to ask questions. They're not afraid to come to the public and say, what do you guys think? Right? And that's important. But he comes to me and he'll ask me a question. He's running against me. He wants to beat me on city council. But you know what I'll do? I answer his questions. And I talk to him and I say, this is important. Let's talk about this. And we'll have a 2-hour conversation once in a while, or an hour, 45 minutes. And it's that ability to just sit down and have a conversation. And he has that. That's a good thing. I respect that. As a closing statement, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Whoever tuned in, I don't know who tuned in. Whoever watches this later. Yeah, Adam's right. I could be a jerk at times. And it's not because I'm just a mean guy. I'm a really nice guy, believe it or not. My problem I have at times is, when people just spread false information, it irritates me so bad, because all I got to do is ask a question and I'll give you the right information, or somebody will. If you ask Adam, he'll give you the right information, but they just spread gossip, and it's like, come on now, stop it. Anyway, so Maricopa is at an important point. We're a growing city, but growth does not mean success, right? Growth means safer roads, strong public safety. We need to have all those things in place. For the past 12 years, as I've mentioned, I've worked to lower property taxes, maintain a balanced budget, improve our infrastructure, support our public safety, our police and fire, regardless of who they endorse in a campaign. I don't think I've ever said no to anything they've wanted, including their raises. We need to secure major funding for things like the Seed Farm Road and our loops around town. And I've proven I'm able to do that with the 347. I've also worked to protect Maricopa from outside political interests by calling them out when it happens, and decisions that don't put our residents first. You know, bringing 40,000 houses south
30
of
more
the city
seconds.
of Maricopa is bad. So I can continue for like another hour, and I don't mind doing that. What's funny is I know I'm out of time, but what's funny is I do a Facebook Live on a monthly basis, and some people laugh because I'll do 45 minutes sometimes because there's no questions. But if there's questions, I've done 3.5 hours where I sat and just answered each question as they pop up on the screen.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty much all we have for today. Thank you guys again for attending.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody that was out in the comments watching. If you did ask a question we didn't get to it, feel free to reach out to the candidates. They'd be more than happy to answer those questions. We have their socials
Yeah,
linked in the description down
I
below.
posted that in the chat for them. So
Thank you, Zach. Appreciate
Yeah.
that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the city council debate. Again, sorry if you wanted to see the other city council candidates on for this debate. This was just a last minute idea. We came up with this idea a couple weeks ago, and then we were it's just us two guys trying to put together this event, and then we sent out the invitations and just scheduling conflicts. So we ended up with two candidates. I'm happy with the debate that we had today. And I would definitely like to do more stuff like this in the future, whether that be especially for the general election, for the other candidate races, but also just people on Facebook. You know, if you want to debate somebody, let's get a debate going. You know, you want to have those debates in the comment sections. Let's bring it out and have a debate on here. You know, so we'll see how that goes. But that's pretty much it for this debate. Thank you again to everybody that was watching. Thank you again to our sponsor, marketing coordinators. We have all their information down below, so you can check them out and reach out to them. And that's pretty much it for today's debate. So thank you guys so much.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
So let me end the stream here.